on, people. Welcome to call number 2. Allison, you have an announcement for muting and...
Oh, yes. Okay. So now that you've joined the Skype meeting, below the window where you can see us and all the little notifications, if you can please hit the microphone button. If your microphone button has a blue background, you need to click on it so there's a line through it. If your microphone button is currently grayed out, you're good.
All right, everyone on the phone is muted. If you have a question and you're on the phone, you can do *6, or you can type the question in on Skype, and Allie is answering questions. And I'm not hearing really any noise, so I think that we might all be good.
Be good.
And they're good, they can hear you.
Awesome. Yeah. So the first one was a little bumpy, but we've got this down. We've got this down to a science. So welcome, people. Today we're going to go over sparkling wine, dessert wine, or sparkling wine, rosé, and dessert wine. There's a lot of information in today's section. As we go through it, we're, like last time, not going to hit every single thing. But please ask any questions that you need to ask. We are going to just jump right into it with sparkling. We're going to talk a little bit about flavors again, just so that we all get on the same page. And if we all open up to this page right here with Cava, we're going to use this little flavor wheel right here to kind of take notes on what we're tasting.
That's page 46.
I have my highlighter, so I'm just going to highlight what I think. And that's a really great way for you guys to do that too. And then your study book also becomes kind of a tasting journal. So as we start off talking about flavors, there are a few different flavors which you're going to see in wine. And now that we're actually into tasting regions and varietals and all that, we're going to go a lot more in depth. So there are 3 major flavors that we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about primary flavors, which are the aromas and flavors that you get from the actual grape, the fruit itself. And then there are secondary flavors, which occur during the fermentation process. And then we have tertiary flavors that come into play with aging and those finishings of the wine. So we're going to talk through those things as we taste them, and that is that. So we're going to start by just talking about what sparkling wine is. So you guys should all have the Calixto Cava and the Jacques Barthelot Champagne. If you don't have those, no big thing. We sent out a different list for PA. And if you guys didn't have something on the set, you all know to just pick something similar in the same price range. So sparkling wine is made by yeast fermenting in the bottle to create effervescence. There are a couple different types of sparkling wine. There is a traditional method, which these 2 are, and then there's the Charmat method, which means that gas is added to the tank so that secondary fermentation that happens in the bottle does not necessarily happen for those types of sparkling wines. So we're going to get started with the Cava. So everyone pour yourself a little bit. And then pour yourself a little bit of the Barthelot. I'm going to leave these up there. Yeah.
If we have room to slide this back, we'll be able to see the labels a little better.
Yeah, we have room.
Perfect.
Cool. So we are going to start with the Cava. Cava is a traditional method sparkling wine that comes from Spain. It's typically made with the Macabello, Xarello, and Padella grapes. I don't speak Spanish. I'm better at French. But anyway.
It's bad, we both are.
So with that being said, those are the typical grapes that you're going to get in this sparkling wine. There are a couple of different quality levels of Cava as well. The one that we're tasting today is a traditional Cava. There's also a Reserva and there's a Grand Reserva. And that all happens, those levels of quality come in correlation with how long the wine is aged. So let's all do our swirl and get our nose down into this glass. And let's start talking about the primary flavors that we smell and taste. forget your spit cup. Courtesy of Allegro.
There we go. One team.
Totally. So what are you guys getting up front? I know for myself, I'm definitely getting some citrus. I'm also getting a little bit of green apple. And those are the two that are really kind of coming through for me. I'm not getting a lot of herbal flavors off of this.
Betsy says grass.
Grass, some greenness. Yeah, green, like grass, that definitely I think fits in with kind of like the green apple aroma, so perfect. I am getting a little bit of yeast. I think that sourdough bread is definitely coming up for me.
Shannon says lime.
As a secondary flavor.
I get a little bit, I smell the green apple, but I taste the yellow apple.
Yeah. I would almost even say that that kind of bruised apple comes out a little bit too.
Yeah.
Slightly oxidized.
Yeah.
Steve from Lancaster says toasty.
Yeah, I was just getting ready to say that. I get a little bit of toast, and that would be a tertiary flavor. So, if you guys can kind of see what I got going on with my book there, I just kind of highlighted what I tasted in that. So now you can go back to reference this. What do you think about the fruit on it? Do you think it's full fruit, medium fruit? What do you think?
I would put it medium. I don't think it's very full in terms of fruit.
For sure. I think the body is pretty light.
Yeah, absolutely.
Definitely dry and lots of tang. So there's nice acidity there, and I don't get any of that residual sugar. It just dries up really quick. And I think the alcohol it tastes pretty low and pretty balanced. I don't get that burn.
Yeah. And that's part of what makes it a good food wine, like Calixto, or not Calixto, like Cava. Why Cava can be a good food wine is because of that higher acidity, because of that nice balance. It's really great for cleansing the palate in between different types of foods, so it pairs pretty flexibly.
Specifically fatty foods.
Yes.
I could get all over this with a little Iberico ham. I don't know.
Oh, yeah, yeah. We should, that next evolution.
All right, let's dump that out. Any questions about Cava before we move on to champagne?
Do you think location defines the flavors of a cava?
So terroir is always going to have some level of influence in the winemaking process. When climate is a little bit warmer, you're going to tend to taste more fruit in the wine. If the climate is a little bit cooler, you're going to have a little bit more acidity. So yes, absolutely. But when it comes to Cava specifically, there aren't any specific like appellation per se characteristics that are known and discussed and used to talk about the wine or grade the wine.
Yeah, so because all the grapes are coming from the same area, you're not going to see that variance in temperature and that sort of thing. You could see it, and also when Dana was talking about the fruits that you see in like the colder and warmer vintages, that's what this is right here, where you see, like if it's a cooler vintage, you might taste more of that quince or that lemon versus orange or apricot. So that can help you know what the grow was like that year.
Yeah, temperature, rain, soil profile, all of these things play a huge part in the way the wine eventually tastes. And as we kind of go through some of these things, when we start to talk about a vintage versus a blended vintage, or a single vineyard versus a wine blended from multiple vineyards, we'll talk in more detail about how blending kind of eliminates some of those nuances or changes them a little bit. Something that we'll talk about a lot as we get close to the holidays is the difference between a grower champagne or a mass-produced champagne, where a perfect example would be, Veuve Clicquot. Like that is a blend from lots of different vineyards because that product wants to taste the same all the time. So every time you open up a bottle of Veuve, it's always going to taste the same because that is how they manipulate the wine. But when you get into more single vineyard, single chateau grower champagnes, that's when you'll see the difference year to year. And sometimes you'll taste a little bit more of that yeastiness or that breadiness. And sometimes you'll have more honeysuckle or something that's, you know, a little bit sweeter. And that will all just kind of evolve based on the climate and the precipitation of that year.
Yeah, and that's one of the cool things about grower champagnes is that traditionally champagne houses, they would blend the wine and they're who makes the wine because it's very expensive when you think like aged cheeses too. So you start from growing the grapes and then going through the whole the whole traditional process. It takes a long time, so it's very costly. So traditionally the champagne houses would buy the grapes to make the wine, and they're not the ones growing the grapes. But this movement, this comeback of the grower champagne are the actual viticulturalists that are growing the grapes. Then they're making the champagne there. And so they have that real personal investment. Their name is on that bottle. They grew those grapes. So you know you're going to get a good product with the grower champagne.
Totally. Let's taste some champagne. So a couple important things to know is that champagne can only be called champagne if it is from the Champagne region of France. So that's why you heard me referring to the cava as a sparkling wine. So anything other than champagne from France is indeed sparkling wine. And there are lots of different styles like cava, like prosecco, like cremant. So only champagne is from France.
Or rather, champagne's only from France. Sorry, didn't realize you knew anything.
What she said. Champagne is made from 3 grapes, Pinot Noir, Pinot Meunier, and Chardonnay. And there are lots of different styles of champagne. There are non-vintage, like we talked about. I need like a paperweight so that my book doesn't keep flopping around. There are non-vintage varietals, which means, or non-vintage bottlings, which means that the juice comes from a couple different growing years. There is a Blanc de Blanc, which means that the champagne is made from 100% Chardonnay. There is Blanc de Noir, which means that the champagne is made from the 2 red grapes, Pinot Noir and Pinot Meunier. And then there's rosé, and then of course vintage. And as we get into the rosé section, we'll talk a little bit more about how a rosé is made. But it's delicious. So, and the reason that champagne is white and it's made from red grapes is because those grape skins are separated from the juice before fermentation, so that it doesn't absorb any color.
And one thing real quick, a note on the non-vintage, it is possible for a non-vintage champagne to all be from the same year, but if the French government hasn't declared that it can be called a vintage, then you cannot actually put that vintage on there. So the government, just like they're controlling what can be called champagne, it has to be with those 3 grapes from that region. They also control that if it gets to have a vintage year label or not. You can bet those wines are going to be delicious and very expensive. Worth your money, but pricey.
What are we tasting in the champagne? I'm definitely getting a little honeysuckle. Got some white flowers on there for sure.
Yeah.
White peach, toasty. I taste lemon. Indeed, gardenia, apricot.
Mm-hmm.
I'm definitely getting the lemon and some brioche.
Yep.
Toast,
Lemon curd.
almonds, light hints of citrus. Brioche, yeah.
Yep.
You guys get a little bit of vanilla on there. Tiny bit. Definitely has a creamy mouthfeel. How about the fruit profile on this? Do you think that the fruit is the most pronounced or some of those secondary flavors? I'm really tasting the flowers and the herbs on this one. Definitely the almond. This is bone dry, super dry. And the acidity is popping. Nice acidity. Yeah.
Fruit comes strong, followed by breadiness.
Yeah.
The tiniest bit of coconut on the tail end.
I wanted to taste coconut, but I couldn't find it.
I'm always looking for coconut. So let's talk a little bit about dryness styles. So champagne can be made in the brut style, which the majority of all champagne is, and this is the driest. It means that all of the sugar has been fermented out of the wine. There is also dry, extra dry, and demi-sec or semi-sweet. So this all happens during the fermentation process. It's just completely driven by how the winemaker or how much sugar the winemaker decides to convert into alcohol. All right, let's dump those out. Any questions on the traditional method? Oh, we did a bad job of passing these.
That's okay, we'll do them next.
Oh, sorry, guys. Take this 1 second.
It's like
Here's the
there are only
first.
2 of us in the room, and we don't care about the other 2 people sitting in front of us.
There are more people here. This is a team effort. Even if we sometimes forget.
I know, and Annie's trying to learn with us, and we didn't even give her any juice to drink. Come on. All right, let's do that. Let's do that prosecco. We're gonna pass it all the way around this time.
Everybody gets it. You don't have to pour it right now, but just before we forget.
And then we're gonna go ahead and get that Lambrusco ready as well.
This is tucked in here with the wires.
So now we have moved on to the tank method or the Charmat method, which means that carbonation is added into the wine. It doesn't naturally occur. So this is carbonated the same way sparkling water is, the same way soda is, just kind of infused in there. Nothing wrong with it. People like their bubbles. We sell the crap out of it.
Oh,
We sell the crap out of Prosecco.
Mm-hmm. Prosecco's been on the up for a minute.
Totally. So this also is made in a few different sweetness levels. Brut, extra dry, and dry. Brut, of course, being the driest. And there are a couple of different quality levels here too, the same way that there is with Cava.
The differentiator between the quality or between the different classifications is for Cava, it has to do with the time it takes to produce. So like we were looking on there, the 18 months versus like the 4 to 5 years, where with Prosecco, it's talking about the quality of grape. So it's not a difference in time to mature the wine, but rather a difference in the wine from the start.
Totally. I get some real nuttiness on this, even though I don't see that on here. Totally get some
Colin
almond.
too, so we need that number.
Ooh.
Don't forget to mute yourself.
Number, bakery department, bakery, you've got a call holding on 1001.
Bakery, call on line
Yeah.
1.
If your bakery department's getting a call, you are not on mute.
Mute it up.
All right.
All right, so I get a little bit of honey, get a little bit of citrus blossom, definitely get a little bit of nuttiness. Wexford, can you mute yourself? Thank you.
I did it. I muted them.
Boom. I get some, I think I got some honeydew melon.
Yeah?
Yeah. I'm getting something green. I don't think it's green apple.
All right, we've got some strong almond vanilla notes, melon and almonds, pear and green apple, tons of green apple.
That almond is coming through like crazy for me.
That second taste, I got a lot more green apple.
Nutty, nutty.
Kiwi, cantaloupe, mineral, honey.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. So I think what we're all picking out is a lot of fruit, right? I think this wine is super fruit forward.
Yeah.
Very light bodied. I think it's kind of off dry. It doesn't dry me out at all the way the first 2 did. So there's definitely a little bit of sugar left in here. And the acidity is softer as well. This is more of a drinking wine than I would say a food wine, for sure. hate Prosecco. Hate it.
I was wondering if you were going to say that.
Hate it. But if you love it, I'm so glad.
I like Prosecco.
I hate it.
Especially after those other wines.
Maybe we should have started with the tank method. But I didn't want to mess it up with the Lambrusco because we're going latest. We're, you know, we don't want to just throw that
as well.
Yeah, I did what I thought was best. Moving on to the Lambrusco, which is super old school, but definitely seeing a real pop in the marketplace. I think that a lot of people just want to drink red wine. They think that they don't like white wine. I think those people are crazy because I love a nice white wine buzz personally. But people just want to drink their red wine, so we're going to bubble it up, right?
Yeah,
bubble it up.
absolutely.
Jam jar,
Mm-hmm.
berries.
Right off the bat, I get a lot more fruit, almost candied fruit.
Mm-hmm. Cherry cola.
Oh, yeah.
Got it.
Wild strawberry.
Totally.
Jerry says, good Lord, that is sweet.
It is sweet.
So much more so after those other wines, too, right?
Yeah. I almost like the berry sauce that's written here.
Yeah,
because it definitely tastes like sauce.
Yeah.
Jen from Dublin says, Mad Dog 2020. That is a classy reference right there.
Wow. We're proud of you.
I mean, I would say St. Ives because that's more me. But just strawberry kiwi. I don't know.
We've all been there.
And if you haven't, you're lying. So we're talking sparkling red wine from Emilia Romagna and Lombardy. A couple different sweetness styles here too. This one's obviously very sweet. There's some off dry and some dry, which we're not currently tasting. Very fruit forward, great serve chilled. I think that this summer customers are going to be really into this. I think these little Prosecco Lambrusco cans are going to fly.
Oh, yeah.
And as people start to get into it a little bit more, you should definitely have a few bottles on the shelf. You know, when Allison and I were doing the core list, we definitely made sure to have some of those on there so that we can provide a nice range to everyone.
That's not a list you have yet. You're not missing anything.
Not missing anything. Work in progress. All core list is a work in progress.
Always.
Always. Any questions about our two types of sparkling wine?
Yeah. Cool. And so Amanda is saying that, so as you guys see from the emails, we're usually tasting different wines for a lot of these in DC, Virginia, Kentucky, Ohio than we are in Pennsylvania and Maryland. The reason for that being we're usually choosing core list private label wines for the larger group of states, so it's easier for you guys to get. But so we're seeing across the different wines within the same style. So Amanda had said that she was getting a lot of the cherry cola from the Lambrusco as well. So just like we were, Yeah, yes. So as we're tasting these wines together, even though it might not be the same brand, we're getting those same tastes across that style.
Yeah, absolutely. And when we get into some more, I don't want to say esoteric because it's not necessarily what they are, but as we get into some more complex regions, we won't be picking the exact wine for you. We'll be saying a Barolo in $50 price range or something like that. So get ready to pick your own wine.
Yay!
All right, y'all ready to move on to rosé?
I'm always ready to move on to rosé.
I'm always ready to move on to rosé too.
Excellent.
There we go. All right, so last week when we were talking about rosé, we decided that we were actually going to taste the rosé and the single varietal of what that rosé was made with. So we have chose Malbec. So we should have the Crios Rosé of Malbec. If you don't have Crios, then we just asked you to pick a rosé of Malbec. And then we just, to make it super easy for us, we did the Crios Malbec because same grapes, same vineyards. It's going to be really cool to kind of taste the full fruit versus the lightly extracted fruit. And that kind of gets us down to what rosé is. So rosé is a wine made from red grapes. But before the wine has the opportunity to take on the full color, which you see here, there's some skin contact, a little bit of maceration, and then the juice is drained off and the skins are discarded so that you get this really light, beautiful flavor. And then it goes back into the tank to finish fermentation before it's bottled and shipped off to us. So rosé is made in all different places. It's made all over the world. We're really going to just kind of talk about the main growing regions. This is obviously from Argentina, even though we don't kind of have that listed as one of our main areas. The majority of rosé comes from France, the south of France, from Provence and the Languedoc. Your wines are going to be super dry, usually more pale in color, really light, very beautiful. We also get a lot of rosé from Italy and Spain. In both of those areas, you're going to usually get a deeper color, something that's a little bit more juicy, a little bit more fruit forward. You're typically going to see rosés made with Sangiovese, Grenache, Syrah, Tempranillo. Those are all great rosé grapes. And then in the U.S., unfortunately, most of our rosé is White Zinfandel. There are a lot of winemakers out there that are making rosé in a bone dry style, which is beautiful and delicious. A lot of great stuff coming out of Oregon. But unfortunately, most of it's Barringer or White Zin or Gallo White Zin. I'm not holding back. I'm not holding back on my feelings. But the taste
to make these videos private.
We'll just edit that part out.
I'm just being real. Don't you edit it. We're allowed to say what we feel on this team.
Isn't Behringer sponsoring us?
Yum, yum, yum. I love this wine. It's one of my favorites.
Grapefruity nose.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Beautiful acidity. My mouth is watering. I want to eat food. Crushed strawberries.
Yeah. The tiniest little bit of citrus.
All right. Citrus, strawberry, pink grapefruit, rhubarb, strawberry rhubarb. Let's make that.
There you go.
So before we get rid of that rosé, let's now taste the full extraction. And before we taste, let's kind of go back and forth with the smell and see if you can kind of pick up some of those deeper flavors in this wine now that we have them together. Where's my paperweight? Boom. Now in the full extraction, I still get a lot of strawberry, but something a little bit deeper, maybe more of a strawberry jam versus like a fresh, crushed, juicy strawberry.
I'm getting a ton of rhubarb from everyone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Getting a little bit of like tobacco-y, tobacco-y, leathery.
Yeah. I get a little bit of peppercorn on that. There's a nice little bit of spice on the end. I'm going to hit up that rosé again.
Nate from South Capitol says he's getting that leathery taste. Steph says that she prefers rosé.
Because Steph drinks rosé all day. Full of jokes today. Full of jokes.
Like grapefruit comes out even more.
Yeah. When you
After-
go back and taste it the second time.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, I think it really highlights the acidity of this wine. This is just, both of these are really spectacular wines for the price.
Absolutely.
Really love them. They should be in all your sets. So even in PA.
Yeah, definitely in PA. This is one wine where we should all be tasting the same wine at once, which is pretty exciting because that does not happen very often.
Do you guys have any questions about rosé? We're doing really good on time. We have like we're at the nice halfway point. We only have 4 more wines to taste, so we have room for questions. Don't be afraid to ask. You have us now.
See if there's any
I
questions
know,
I can
I'm
ask.
looking.
Yeah.
I'm looking. I'm watching. Something just got through?
Standard hourage for
Yeah, that's.
skin contact?
Oh, I actually don't know. It definitely varies. I don't think that there is a standard. I think that it's completely up to the winemaker, and they make that decision based on the ripeness of the fruit.
Sean asked, where are the best rosés made? So that a lot depends on what is the best rosé for you. So everybody has different taste buds, just like as we're tasting the same wine in a lot of these cases and tasting different things, depending on what you like and what you want to taste, will determine where you think the best wine is made. There's certainly, it needs to be done within a certain style to be called a good example of that style. But you very well might have a favorite wine from a completely different region than everybody else you work with. That's okay.
I think some of the ones that are most world-renowned are coming from the south of France.
Yes.
But there's fantastic rosé being made everywhere. I personally love a rosé made from Sangiovese. And there are some great ones coming out of Italy, but my most favorite is A to Z rosé from Oregon. It's so delicious and yummy. So it doesn't really matter, where it comes from as long as you like it. And I think that's the key with all wine is the more you drink, the more you'll know and the more you'll understand. And it's all about enjoyment. I think that there is some fear around wine that you have to know all of these things and that you have to know the 5 first growths and you have to understand soil profiles specifically and in depth. And you really don't. You really just have to know what you like, and you have to be able to remember what things taste like so that you can accurately describe it to a customer. So that's why we're kind of going through all of this, and we're not like, oh no, you don't taste brioche. That's not what's in there, because it is, and that's what you taste. And through the process, you'll start to learn what causes the wine to taste that way. And your education and your knowledge will just get deeper and deeper. But drink what you like. Remember what you taste in the wines, and tell that to customers and ask questions. If a customer comes to you and says, I want a really light-bodied rosé that is bone dry and I get more minerality, like after you taste a few rosés, you're probably going to start giving them a rosé from the south of France. But if someone says, I want a really round, juicy, fruit-forward rosé, you're probably going to give them something from the U.S. or from South America. And you'll just learn that in time with tasting more and more varietals.
Another big thing with that is smelling as much stuff as you can. You just smell your produce before you make it. Smell it after you cook something. Go outside after it rains and smell what that smells like if it's cold or if it's hot. Because if you don't know what a violet smells like, you're never going to taste something and be like, oh, I get notes of violet. So you have to be smelling these things all the time to know what these flavor or these aroma profiles are to be able to identify them.
We have a same question for Prosecco. Basically, where are the best Proseccos made?
I mean, they all come from that same region in Italy. And Prosecco, I don't want to say anything bad about it, but
yeah, so Prosecco.
I'm going to let Allison take that.
Prosecco can only only be made 2 places in Italy. So you might find a grower that you like, you might find a producer that you like because they're blending for that consistency, and they're blending a certain way that you prefer. But this is not like rosé where it can be made anywhere and called rosé. To be called prosecco, it's got to be a Veneto or Friuli. So it's just those 2 places in Italy. So you might have a preference of one versus the other, but you're not looking at nearly the gambit that you're looking at with rosé.
Another question. Why do you prefer Italian in Spain versus US for rosé?
Me personally?
I think the question is aimed at you.
So I didn't necessarily say that.
She was being the customer. Which
However,
yeah.
yes. When I referenced the A to Z rosé made from Sangiovese from Oregon, I just think that it tastes fantastic. It's really round, it's juicy, it's fruit forward. I wouldn't necessarily consider it a food wine. I think it's more of a drinking wine, and I just think it tastes delicious. There are Sangioveses made from Italy or Sangiovese rosés made from Italy that I also love as well. But that A to Z came to mind for just really enjoying it.
Can I assume that a Malbec from the same region as the Crios will be as spicy? Or is this specific for this one?
It's all of these things happen in the winemaking process. So if we're talking about Malbec, the general characteristics of them are deep and rich and inky and spicy, really full-bodied.
Oh, he was talking about the rosé. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
Probably goes with something.
All right. Can you ask the question again?
Can I assume that Can I assume that the rosé that other rosés from the same region as the Crios will be as spicy?
Okay. So if you think the Crios rosé of Malbec is spicy, is what I'm getting from this question.
I can take it one off, and then I'll get more information. I'll ask again.
Okay. Next question.
We're good on questions right now. We have a lot of people saying their favorite rosés. Lots of people are talking about like the Whispering Angel, Naomi, Mirabao, don't know that one. Mirabua. I didn't take French either. I took Turkish. Even kidding. We're talking about Austrian rosé, Bandol, one of my favorites too.
I love me a Bandol.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, there's a ton of rosé out there.
Yeah.
A ton of rosé.
And as we come into rosé season and the program just launched, like we added in a couple regional favorites. So make sure you taste through all of those. They're all different, very different flavor profiles, different weights, different acidity, different residual sugar levels, and definitely pick a few things off the shelf that you already have there that you have maybe never tried before. And then you can really start seeing some of the differences when you line up more rosé side by side. Also love the Whispering Angel. Also love the Miraval.
Yeah, good ones.
Lots of good wine out there.
Okay, so Nate said the Crios rosé was more spicy than other rosés I've had. He was just wondering, is that due to the region or their process?
I would probably say it's more towards their process and like how the grapes grew in their specific vineyard. Malbec rosé in general tends to be really juicy and bright, and have really great acidity. Personally, I don't get a lot of spice off of it, but if that is coming up for you, then I would recommend trying a few more Malbec rosés. What is the one that we chose for? The name is escaping me. We chose a Malbec rosé.
Viognier?
Yes. So we have
That's not how you say it, but I can spell it.
Viognier rosé that we chose for a regional selection. That's also a rosé of Malbec. So you all should have that, with the exception of PA. So give that a taste. Taste it side by side with the Crios maybe today since you have it open, and see if you can identify some differences. A couple more things coming in.
The King Rabbit from France was pretty groovy. That's when we tasted in the financial review. Yeah, that's delicious at a great price point.
Yeah.
Super good.
You know which other one is really yummy? The Mr. Pink. I kind of hate the name of it, but it tastes really good.
Gotten a lot of glorious delicious on the Viognier, however we say that.
That wine is really good, and we're really happy to be able to add that from one of our favorite local importers.
So Sean is asking if Cryos is a new rosé on the market. No, it's not. It's been around for a little bit, and it is available through PLCB.
Yeah.
And it should be turned on for, yeah, it is, because you guys are consistent across the state.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's in there. You can absolutely order it.
Yep, it's actually available in all of our markets, so everyone should have it.
Yeah.
All right. You guys ready to taste some dessert wine?
What's the driest under $10 rosé? We could probably think about that and get back to you. That's
Yeah.
Driest under $10. Where's Betsy? Is Betsy in Ohio?
Yes, she is.
All right, Betsy. There is a super dry rosé that used to be like $6.99 called Protocolo. And they have a red, a white, and rosé. And that Protocolo rosé from Spain is super dry. And it's like $7.
What are some good sparkling rosés?
Ooh, lots.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
I'm writing down the questions.
One-
and we can
yeah.
draw out that.
Yeah.
one of my favorites, it's kind of pricey, but Aubrey is one of my favorite champagnes. And Aubrey Brut Rosé is my jam. Love that one.
I love I'm blanking on the brand right now. It was a grower that we had. It's a big name that I should remember. Was a rosé grower champagne that we had a couple years ago.
The Chanson's also
Yeah, the Deschamps
Chansonnet is
Cremant.
great.
And that's again that traditional method. That one's delicious. Very good.
Fruit forward sparkling wines, kind of like Lambrusco, but not. But the Banfi Rose de Regale. Rose de Regale.
Yeah.
So good.
Chocolate cake.
Chocolate cake and Rose de Regale.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with it.
Nothing. Mm-mm.
All right. On to dessert wine. My spit cup's full. I need to dump these.
Here, we've got a picture.
Actually, I have an extra cup. Here, I'm gonna move on. All right, guys. So the dessert wine category is massive, and we're not going to go through everything today. Today, we're going to go through port, sherry, and sauternes. That's what we're going to taste. However, what we are going to do when we get closer to the holidays, we're going to do another tasting call. It'll be outside of this forum, but it'll be similar, where we're going to get everyone back on the phone again, and we're going to do a pretty deep dive into dessert wines for cooking. We have a huge opportunity to better serve our customers there. So we will taste some Marsala and Madeira at that time. We're not going to taste any today or really talk about it. A lot of you don't even have either of those in your sets. So Allison and I are working on rounding that out so that everyone does have a decent selection. And then we'll come back again and taste those and do a broader port tasting and a broader sherry tasting, which I could talk about all day. But when we had such a hard time finding the sherries that we needed, I thought maybe not everyone is into sherry as I am, even though I don't want that to be true. Okay. So types of dessert wine. We have fortified wine, which is a wine made that has natural spirit or neutral spirits added later, ups the alcohol content, makes the wine last for a really long time. Port and sherry are those styles. We also have a late harvest style of dessert wine, which is where the grapes are left on the vine until they start to shrivel up and raisinate, and then they are pressed. We have dried dessert wine, which is similar to that late harvest, but it goes even further, where they're actually sun-dried, completely raisinated. They lose almost 70% of their moisture. The wine is very extracted. You don't see that a lot, but it happens. We have ice wine, which is made from grapes that are actually left on the vine until they freeze and are then pressed. And then we have botrytis-affected dessert wines. Botrytis is called noble rot. It is a type of fungus that will affect the grapes so that it concentrates all the sugar. It's very cool. Don't get grossed out by it because all of our cheese is just like mold and
So you guys
bacteria
eat cheese,
too.
it's fine.
Yeah, so it's all good. It's really delicious. All right, let's taste. What do I have us starting with? Port or sherry? I think
Port, sauternes, sherry.
let's start with port.
And now this is the first wine that was a store choice wine. So we have the Graham's 6 grapes.
Yeah. So basically, we asked you guys to try to pull a ruby port. It's just a young style of port, so it'll be really red, super fruit forward, lots of different styles. So this will be really cool when we get into tasting these in a broader forum, when we can really try lots of different styles. But port is made in Portugal. This wine is fortified.
Exclusively in Portugal. Exclusively in Toro, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, this is another one of those wines where it's not going to be which area is that wine best from, because if it is called port, if it has that little, can I hit that for a second? This guy up here, confirming that it is indeed port, there you go, then it is from that area.
So this one is really light and fruity. It's a very traditional, like ruby style of port. As you go through the range of red ports like this, you'll have late bottled vintage, which again is usually a blend of multiple vintages. There is white port, which would be made similar to champagne, where the grape skins are extracted or pulled off for fermentation. And then there's rosé port, which is made just like, a rosé, all of these being fortified. And then you can get into some oak-aged ports, which are personally my favorite. They become more brown, a little bit more oxidized, aged in wood for longer amounts of time. These are called tawnies. And some really beautiful flavors just come out in these wines as they age for long periods of time. Earthiness, nuttiness, hazelnut, toasty, vanilla, caramel, all those yummy flavors. So we'll be excited to taste a broader range of port with you guys before the holidays.
Right now, the tasting notes we have out there are milk chocolate, rubbing alcohol, burnt caramel, pecan, black licorice, hazelnut, and pecan with Sandman port, vanilla and raspberry with a little red licorice, star anise. The good stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it.
And Eric, I like what you said where you said the alcohol definitely hits the nose first. I like to, especially if I'm trying a wine for the first time, smell it before I swirl, and then swirl and smell it again, because it completely changes what that smells like as it starts to open up and breathe a little bit and you're aerating your glass. Remember last call we talked about the alcohol and how that could affect, have longer runners. So this guy where it's a fortified wine, see those nice long legs on there? That's from that higher alcohol wine. So you have those long guys on there.
Definitely getting some 5-spice.
Yeah.
Some kind of plummy, concentrated, like macerated fruit, cooked fruit.
Mm-hmm. Getting some of that poison.
Mm-hmm. Yum. All right. We're gonna dump that off.
Some espresso in there too.
Yeah, I got that as well. Toffee.
Oh, it's delicious.
We are gonna move on to sherry. And we ended up with 2 bottles here. I asked you guys to get an Oloroso because it's a nice kind of middle of the road. With sherry, there are also so many different styles ranging from bone dry to very sweet. Again, very excited to do this class with you all later and really taste a lot of those styles because I can be kind of a freak about it. I just think sherry is so good. But the Oloroso style is medium-bodied, definitely sweet. This is a cream sherry that we have here, which is one of the sweetest styles. And then we have an Amontillado, which is a drier style, definitely lighter-bodied. So when it comes to sherry, the light, drier styles are made from the Palomino Fino grape. And the darker, richer, more sweet flavor styles are made from Muscatel and Pedro Ximenez. Another really cool thing about sherry is the Solera aging system, where barrels are racked, and every year when they make a new vintage, they'll take a little bit from an older vintage and blend it in. So over years, you'll be blending multiple vintages together to get the most perfect flavor, the most delicious wine. So a very, very cool process. Fino and Manzanilla are our lightest styles. We don't have that here today. Then you would go into the Amontillado, which we are going to taste now. It's a level or two above Oloroso, which you guys are tasting. But you can go ahead and swirl and taste and just kind of get in there and talk about what you're seeing and smelling and tasting. That one to me is very clean up front, and it's almost like there's not enough on the front of it for me, but then when you stop and wait a second,
Oh yeah,
it just continues to develop, and you really get those beautiful nutty flavors.
there's a lot of nutty flavor. The Brazil nut, black
Yeah.
walnut. Yeah.
All of it.
I'm getting dates, plums, figs, vanilla.
Yeah, you guys are tasting one that's slightly sweeter than the one we have, but knowing those characteristics of Oloroso, you're tasting that for sure.
Tastes like honey and sweet potatoes.
Yes.
Yum. What honey and sweet
I
potatoes?
know.
Yeah.
Our Oloroso's smelling really yummy too. Yeah, definitely fig and honey. You're not going to get that kind of cleanness that you get on the front with something that's a little bit drier.
I would recommend a good Oloroso.
We're going to have to get some notes out on that. Like there
The
are,
distribution's pretty inconsistent,
It's-
Patricia. So the stuff that you're seeing down in Sovo, we're not seeing in Northern Virginia versus DC. So
yeah. For this, did someone write aloe vera on there?
yes.
Hell yeah, or heck yes. That's my favorite. But I don't think it's available in stuff. But aloe vera is one of the most beautiful sherry houses ever. So again, guys, we love this category, and we could go on about it for such a long time. But it's just vast. So we see the need for us to do something bigger just with this, and we will. That will also give us time to research what's available on every market and have some really great lists out to you all about what you should be filling your sets with, and more to come. Any other quick sherry questions before we taste our last wine today? We're just gonna barely get through this. All right.
It's a pretty different taste than you. Yeah.
I need to do a little rinse.
I'm going to need to rinse as well.
You guys want to talk about what you're doing?
Oh, so we are rinsing in between. So you never rinse with water. You always rinse with wine. That's to help not thin out what's going to be in your glass. So you pour a little bit of that next wine, you swirl it around really well, so we're getting all the flavors and everything that was in the glass before out. You dump it in your spit cup, and then you pour it again. You're going to get a much truer experience with the wine.
So we have a Sauternes here, which is made in Bordeaux. So Sauternes is actually the style of wine, and Sauternes specifically is a region of Bordeaux. Bordeaux is world-renowned for these types of wines, and a lot of times they won't even make the wine unless the vineyard gets noble rot that year, and it doesn't always happen. It's the perfect combination of heat, and moisture. So to make that bacteria grow. Let's give it a taste. So most of you, I'm sure, have had a Sauvignon Blanc before. Probably drank lots of Sauvignon Blanc. Something that I think is really cool, if you can kind of think back to all the Sauvignon Blancs you've had and know that this wine is predominantly Sauvignon Blanc. There's also a little bit of Semillon and Muscadel in there. But this is what that rot does to the grapes. It really concentrates all of the sugar, really honeys the flavors, caramelizes everything. It's mad science. It's super, super cool.
Amanda from PCC says marzipan, yum. This is the one I was most excited to try. I want to have this one with some cheese.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. Some blue.
Yeah. Or some funky washer and something.
Mm.
Yeah. So we're coming to the end of our time. I want to give you guys another couple minutes to ask a few more questions. This one has been fun. We got through a lot of information and tasted a lot of stuff. So you guys are going to need a big fat glass of water to cleanse off that palate. But what questions do you have?
Anything that surprised you style-wise, or anything? We have some fun descriptors on here as people are tasting the different ones. Kellen said smoke and pineapple.
I thought that one was exactly right.
Yeah, absolutely. Yosef said toasted oak and golden raisin. I think we already said from Amanda marzipan.
Yeah. Awesome. How are you guys feeling with understanding the aromas and flavors? What's primary, secondary, and tertiary? Gaining a little bit more confidence as you taste through some of these things?
And as you're tasting, reference on page 42, it's where they kind of break it out, and they have those broken out a little bit. So if you're visual, that's a good way to help your brain get that sorted. Yeah, so much better understanding of tasting profiles. Love the wheel breakdowns in the book. Me too. Andrew says some are not as prominent as I would have thought, but I'm beginning to understand why. Some of the flavors, he's getting to understand why. So yeah. Cool, great. That's the points.
Awesome. Well, I think that's all we've got for today. Cheers to you all.
Bye, everyone.